Breaking the Cycle to Step Forward. Authentic conversations from lived experience and a professional perspective in overcoming abuse with Chris and Beverley Ann.
Hello and welcome to Breaking the Cycle to Step Forward. I'm Beverley Ann and I'm here with my fabulous co-host.
Hi everyone, Chris here.
And it's Chris Tuck as per se. Today's episode is July's Have You Got 5 Minutes, our Q&A session. And we've had a question come in and we're actually going to call this one, and I'm just looking at it, When Communication Goes Wrong, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we've had a question come in and it says, how do you mend fences when something's been miscommunicated? I think that's really important when we're at different places, especially, you know, life goes on anyway, but we're in different places in healing and recovery. But then when life gets busy, because I know that, you know, between you and me, I've had a complete change of timetable and it's impacted not just me, it impacts out and it impacts you, it impacts my family and everything. So, and this is actually a good one for us to be able to share as well.
To actually speak about it, yeah.
So, what we're going to do you want to share the example that we're going to use?
Yeah, so obviously Bev's just shared that she's got a new job and it's impacted the way that we used to work. And we worked together on different things and we were working on a particular presentation that had to be done by a particular date. And we just found it quite difficult to get dates in the diary that married up. And also I was tired, you were tired. We're trying to get this presentation done to the best of our ability, which is a very high standard. And we need to go through it. We need to allocate who's doing what. And it was just getting that time in the diary, wasn't it? And we were communicating over WhatsApp at, you know, different times of the night, day. And it was like, oh, what does she actually mean by that? And I could see by your response that you were getting annoyed with me as well. It's like, well, what does she mean by that? But the thing is, it was not at a reasonable hour to make a phone call. So it was almost like, oh, So when we actually got on the phone and like this, and we had a proper chat, I'm like, oh, that's what you meant. Oh, that's what you meant. Because we were actually riling each other up. Not only
that, but I had my knickers in a twist, so I'm going to put my hands up to that because I had some other personal things that I was preparing myself for. So I was feeling really delicate and really fragile, overwhelmed. Yeah. And I was thinking, oh my God, have I got to do something to all of this? And actually it wasn't like that at all. No. It was simple. So that's a really great scenario because it just shows the big example was how we interpret.
Yeah.
And we can't control how other people interpret what we have in our mind and what the other person has in their mind. And it really takes me to that image of having 6 blind people around an elephant and they're asked to feel the elephant and asked to describe what does an elephant look like to you in your mind.
Wow.
So if you think of somebody who's by the elephant's trunk and think of what they're feeling, and then think of one of the other people that are at the side of the elephant.
Yeah.
They're feeling 2 very different things.
Yeah.
But they've been asked to describe an elephant in their mind. What does it look like?
Yeah.
You know, if someone's on the tail, that's very different to the trunk, but they've got similarities, but they're different.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the same in communication. And when we're in that heightened state, and like for me, like I was short of time, overwhelmed, personally as well, had something going on personally, that the things that, you know, that window of tolerance that you can normally, just do this, get it, understand it, got that, that's no, suddenly becomes huge and it's not. It's like, I can't do this. It's when our head shuts down.
Yeah.
So how was it for you thinking about that, Chris?
I think because we're being honest and open, your change of job has really impacted me,
Yeah, it has.
because we used to just talk all the time and have all of these ideas and, yeah, we're going to do this, yeah, we're going to do that, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, she's not there anymore, she's working. But obviously we've all got to do what we've all got to do, you know, and I'm really proud of you for taking on the role you're doing, and I'm sure we're going to be able to talk around that in future
Mm.
podcasts once you've you know, got more time and you're more settled. So that's going to be exciting going forwards. But yeah, it's almost a little bit of a bereavement, a little bit of a loss of access to you, to be honest.
Yeah, and in all fairness, I feel that as well. So it's not, you know, obviously, self-care is important, but my my diary is part of my wellness tools.
Yeah.
So, and if I haven't got enough of the yellow, which is what I use for myself, for my self-care, I mean, yoga is really important to me. And I've
Hmm.
not had that. And I realise I haven't. The only thing I have been doing is walking, but not long enough. So I'm
Yeah.
starting to get to that space where I'm bedding in. And I'm also missing that interaction with yourself and other people, because you can't just work.
No. No.
And we've said this before. But going
Yeah.
back to the communication,
Yeah.
it's funny how it can trigger
Yes.
both parties unintentionally in different
Yeah.
ways.
100%. So I've got a few anonymous kind of examples that I can potentially use. Um, so it's just when, as you said at the start, when someone's not at the stage of healing as you are, or doesn't have the same understanding, maybe doesn't have the same belief systems, whatever it is, maybe not have the same values. You meet each other, you talk at a surface level, and you think there is a connection right there, and there probably is on that level. But when you get deeper, you start realizing that actually they're not on the same page as me. And that is where, if you say something, it could trigger somebody else, and they could internalize that as you being really horrible. um
Yeah.
you're being phobic about something, and I'm going to leave that there. um and it truly isn't what they might have thought. And if they only had that conversation with you to say, actually, what you just said has caused me to feel this way, then you could have a conversation about it and maybe iron out what was going on. But I also think that, as you said, it's about listening and reflecting and maybe asking a question. I think I heard you say this. Am I correct? So you use that as a follow-up question. But often when we are triggered, we ain't in that headspace to ask that, are we? So again, it's a practice thing, isn't it?
It is.
Um,
And I'm only smiling because, you know, it's like all of us. I used to say years ago, you know, I can do survival easily, but when I shut someone out, when I'm feeling unsafe, I've got more shutters that go up than a bank being robbed.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's like, you know, someone said something to me before where, if I had been put down in my childhood and that particular word that was used in my childhood holds a lot of pain for me, if someone outside who I love and I know is a safe person, but even if they are, if they use that word that causes me pain,
Mm.
I'm going to internalize that, and then think that that person is unsafe, when in fact they don't know that that's a trigger word for me.
Yeah.
So again, when there is trust, we can start having these conversations.
And that's the biggest word, isn't it? Trust.
Yeah,
Because people say don't use trigger words. Well,
everything's a trigger word.
everything's a trigger word, you know, smells, visions. I mean, one of my triggers sounds ridiculous, and I remember being in the cinema and seeing it. It was a picture of chairs stacked up in front of a big, tall French window. Well, you wouldn't think that would trigger anyone, but it did. It was an image from when I was very young. In fact, the first time my dad abused me.
Yeah.
And even to this day, that advert, when I see it, I have to like look after myself. But isn't it funny how other people look at it and think that's just a pile of chairs stacked up?
Yeah, get you
Yeah,
know,
get over it.
yeah.
Yeah,
She's a bit loopy, or a bit sort of oh, what's the word? Special. What,
yeah,
you know, like
yeah,
I'm not talking about neurodiverse people now. I'm just talking about us going, what's she being precious about? That kind of
yeah. And
saying,
that's
you
the kind
know.
of thing. That's the
Yeah,
kind of thing that happens. You know,
yeah,
at one time it was different songs. You know, it would be Johnny Cash. I think I've mentioned that before, you
yeah,
know, his songs, because he very much reminded me of my dad, you know, because he
yeah,
really liked him. But now I've been able to separate that. And now I love listening to Johnny Cash, and I haven't got those triggers. So that can happen quite often without people realizing. And what's really sad is when people feel unable to say something back.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But when someone does feel safe enough to say, actually, what did you say to me? Did I hear you right? You said this, and then the other person might be put on the spot, but that person has actually then found their voice, which is a lovely thing to see. But it also then causes, especially if you've got a group of people that are all on their recovery journey, that could then cause that other person to feel very like uncomfortable. Well, I didn't mean anything. What's he or she taking it like that for? So it can cause all sorts of impact and
Yeah.
emotion, and it's just trying to go, well, actually, we just, you know, that's a trigger word for me. Okay, I hear you, and I'm really going to try my hardest not to go there ever again, because I understand that it causes you pain, and I don't want to see you in pain.
No, and that is really lovely to be have that acknowledgement. Another scenario I hear sometimes, and I know that you know happens with me at times. Someone will say something, and I'll say, actually, I don't like that. That doesn't make me
Yeah,
feel good. And
yeah,
oh, it's only a joke.
yeah,
Well,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
not a joke. A joke is
yeah.
when two people laugh.
But the thing is, I keep saying but, I shouldn't keep saying but. To them it is a joke because they haven't got all of your experiences and the
Yeah,
associated pain. So from their shoes, it might be a genuine joke,
absolutely.
but we just do not find that funny. And I just think then that's when you sort of like, no, if that person carries on in that vein after you've said, actually, I don't like that, and if they then carry on, then it's like, do I really want that person in my life? You make a
Yeah,
choice, don't you?
yeah, yeah,
But often when you tell people that, you know, something's upsetting you, then if they genuinely care for you, then they will change or be more considerate.
yes,
Even if they can't remember 100% of the time, you know, they're more considerate and like, oh, sorry, done
yeah,
it again.
yeah. And also, it's a language we use because we use
Yeah,
different language. You know, I can't think of an experience, something that I can share at the moment, but I know that, you know, I've recently had a conversation with someone very close, and they read something and they took something different to what it was actually being said. They thought that was it, never again. And actually, it wasn't about that. It was like something needs to change because we can't continue this way.
so something was written and that person took it as something completely different to what was intended. Yeah,
Yes, and I think we often have this, especially
we do.
with text messaging.
Yeah, yeah. And I just would like to sort of like say as well, hands up, that if an individual has gone through any kind of abuse and their self-esteem's been impacted, and they're still living with some of that impact, and they get triggered quite often, they're going to find quite a lot of stuff triggering, hurtful, causes them more pain. And it's, how do we help them with themselves to get out of that cycle? Because there are many people in this world who are lovely, caring, really nice people, and they don't know about what you've gone through unless you share it with them, and you're more than likely not going to share it with them, right?
No.
But it's like, how do we as our own individual selves make ourselves more robust, if that's the right word, probably not, to deal with some of this?
Well, I think that comes, you know what I'm like for self-care, it comes back to
Yeah,
self-care. Now, some people are able to in the moment, and I know I can. On a good day, I can do it. If someone's upset me, you know, I can take a deep breath and then go, oh, actually, that landed a bit hard, or no, I don't like that.
yeah,
But when I'm feeling particularly vulnerable about something, I need to go
yeah,
away and reflect because I can't find the words.
right,
So it may be that there's so much emotion there that need to go away, and I actually need to wait for some of that emotion to come out, and I'm working through it myself and using different self-care tools to get me in a good place. And then once I'm in a good place, done. Because sometimes, let's be honest, when a person says something, they're not necessarily looking to hurt you. So when they
no,
have said something and it's landed, that's when I think, oh, that didn't land well. What's that touching in me?
yeah, yeah, what's it touching in me, yeah, that I need to work on?
Yeah, yeah. And that's a really good place sometimes on our, like, our inner self, like, oh, didn't
Because
like
there are
that.
many professionals that are not trauma informed, trauma attuned, whatever phrase you want to use, that can be saying all sorts of everyday things, and they are just a trigger to victim and survivors, individuals that have suffered abuse and are living with the impact. That's just how it is. That's the reality of the situation. And it's almost like you can't have a go at people for not knowing. If they are obviously deliberately causing harm and they know different,
Mm,
then that's a whole different ball game. But if they genuinely don't know, and you have felt a certain way, then, like I did with the medical team when I was having my operations, I know how disempowered I feel if certain things happen.
yeah.
So I had to be, brave is not the right word, I had to tell them my needs so
Yes.
that I wouldn't be disempowered, so that I could remain in a state of stability and feeling safe and feeling okay. So I
Yeah.
had to tell them my needs. Um, and not everyone is able to do that, but I do urge everyone to work towards doing that. So if you know that a certain thing, whatever it is, impacts you, then what is it you need to put in place to protect yourself from that?
Absolutely. And one of the things that I share about my new role is I'm working with young people. So
Yeah.
we're looking between the ages of like 14 and 18. And there was an incident not that long ago, actually, where two young people were conversing and somebody reacted and
Hmm.
it came across really wrong. Anyway, they separated and they went their own way. But one of them wanted to have a conversation with this person, and they asked if they could work through a conversation, and they wrote it down and they said what it is they wanted to say, and then they wanted to practice. And I was witness to this. And they did have a conversation, and it was received really well because there'd been a few days between it. It was a reflective session.
Yeah.
The words that they used were really reassuring in the first place. And so the other person received it well. And then the other person was actually able to say in the moment, I'm really sorry too. And I really
Yeah.
appreciate you coming to me. And
Yeah.
so I went, when I saw that young person the next day, I actually said to them, was really proud to hear how you would find the courage to actually practice and look at what you wanted to say. And they were really shocked. I said, no, that takes a lot of courage, what you were doing, and well done.
When it comes to victim and survivors, individuals that have suffered abuse, sorry, I'm using these three phrases now because we're moving on with some of the language with the work that I'm doing. So I'm trying to be really cognizant of it. I've forgotten what I was going to say. Menopausal brain peeps. It's just really important that you can go to that person and have that conversation, but if you feel unsafe, that's never going to happen.
No. And this is the bit we talk about, the self-care again. What is it that you feel unsafe with? Because often it's being vulnerable. In the words of Brené Brown, it's that vulnerability, and we don't want to be vulnerable because vulnerable means danger.
When it happened,
Whereas there's a courage to be vulnerable as well. So as an adult, okay, I want to have this conversation. This is really uncomfortable. I don't want to have this conversation. But think about what it is you want to achieve, the outcome, because it's okay to be able to share that with a person and say, look, just want to have this conversation because I want for us both to be in a good place.
You
know what I mean? Or, things felt a little bit heated and a bit uncomfortable, and I'm sure they have for both of us. Rather than saying you, it's when we start conversations with you did this or you said that, this is how I felt. It's that you that puts us all on the
it's accusatory, isn't it? It's not like trying to sort anything out. It's all about, well, what my fault? I didn't do nothing wrong. What have I got to be worried about? It's all your fault. It's that,
you can take a joke.
No,
actually, it's
get
not
a life,
joke.
Lighten up. Blah 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 blah. It's all of that.
All of those. Oh, I have to take a deep breath when I hear that. Because instinctively, that's not what I want to do.
But a lot of stuff that I do hear and see, I can go, oh, really? And just walk away from it. But then there is other stuff that it just really gets to me. And I'm like, no, I'm not having that. You ain't getting away with that. And I become really bloody minded about it and just go, right, how do I tackle this? Because it ain't carrying on.
No, exactly. And then, but that's when it comes to our boundaries and understanding our boundaries, what is acceptable. Because some people, they haven't realised what our boundaries are, and sometimes we don't always, and sometimes they don't know that they've done it, and it's not malicious. It's a lack of awareness, and then that's where I feel it is our job, it is our role to raise that awareness. I understand you didn't mean to say something, however, this is how I felt it as a survivor, and I'd really appreciate it if you didn't do that again, because this is how it made me feel. Most people, most people, when you say that, most people would be like, I am so sorry.
On the flip side of that, though, there are some professionals who think that victim survivors, people that have suffered abuse, they should be wrapped up in cotton wool. They're gonna break. They're gonna like, if I speak to them, if I explain the reality of what the situation is, they're gonna crumble. They're gonna do this. So there's all of this false narrative as well. So not only have we got maybe on one side the victim survivor individual who suffered abuse being triggered and not feeling safe and coming back, either retreating or fighting verbally, not physically but verbally, so they're like on the attack first. You've got all of that going on. You've then got the professionals that may see that and go, oh my goodness, I can't now do this and I can't say that and I can't do this, and I think over time that's mixed messaging. Yes, you're going to have some people that won't be able to deal with the reality right now until they've had more support and more education, more awareness, whatever it is. But most of us, we are so resilient, and I know some people don't like that word, but we're survived. We're here. We're living our lives. We've got careers. We've got families. We do. Yeah. So we are all individuals. And I think that a blanket, oh, victim survivors, can't really deal with them because, you know.
Well, there's that fear, isn't there? And it is fear. If I say something, I'm going to trigger something, you know, regardless of whether it's a young person, whether it's, you know, a survivor who's much older, I'm going to trigger something. Well, actually, you may trigger something, but also you may reassure someone because it's always there in your mind. It doesn't go away. It's part of who you are. It's part of your experience. And I think the honesty is important. And I think it comes down to the listening. So
Yeah.
asking a question, but asking it, making sure that person's like, check in with them.
Yeah.
Is it okay to ask you questions?
Yeah.
Would
Yeah.
you let me know if I'm asking you something or I'm giving you too much information? Would you let me know? And then, have I explained it enough?
Yeah.
Do you need me to say it in a different way?
Yeah. 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 So I think with this banner of trauma, understanding that anybody that's gone through a traumatic situation, whatever it is, that there is a potential to trigger them with anything.
Yeah.
Just having that knowledge there, and then dealing with it and responding to it in a way that you've just described is the best way. That is what is good communication. Clear, concise language, truthful, transparent, feedback. Make
And you're not
sure that
always going
you're
to get it right.
no, but that's how you learn, isn't it?
Yeah. But there's no one tick list. You know,
Yeah,
we're all unique. You know,
yeah,
there are some things that work better for you than work for me and vice versa. But that doesn't mean to say, no, it's okay for somebody to say, oh, I don't like hearing it like that way. Okay, thank you for telling me.
yeah, yeah. So again, I can use another example of personal. So I went to a inner child meditation workshop the other weekend, okay? And I, in my head, thought it was this, and it turned out to be this. And I've done inner child work within my EMDR session and within my hypnosis sessions. And on a one-to-one basis, for me, that worked. But sitting in a room of like 100 people, it's got to be.
Wow.
And then you had people behind you sobbing their hearts out. Like, soon as someone sobbed, like, we had our eyes closed, you know, because you expect, you know, you feel safe to a certain degree, so you have your eyes closed. And then someone all of a sudden goes, sobs, like you're jumping out of the
Do you know, when you said that, I knew that would be my trigger.
no, this ain't working for me. It really
No.
isn't for me. So, but if when I was looking around the room and watching people like with their eyes closed, there was people like with serene smiles on their faces. There were other people like literally in a heap on the floor. There was others hugging each other, and it was just like, and I'm just looking around thinking, oh my word. There's no way I'm getting anything out of this workshop because all of that noise and the hurt that I can
Absolutely.
feel and see, it doesn't sit well with me. I can't relax and follow this through. So, but you know, you live and learn, don't you? But that is all like non-verbal communication, isn't it? Where someone's
Yeah.
like explaining or saying a script, doing an exercise with you, and then you've got all of this going on around you, and it's really discombobulating. Got the word in.
Love that. Love that. But that's a bit like when we're communicating and you're having a conversation with someone in certain areas. Are you comfortable? I don't like it when there's a door open at the back,
Yeah,
you know, and somebody could just approach me, you know, knowing that someone's behind me and they're crying. I couldn't just sit there. And even now, as you said it, I could feel myself like, I want to be able to, that for me is more triggering because I can't comfort them.
Yeah.
I can feel their pain. I can hear them, but I can't comfort them. But or not even comfort them as in put my arms around them, but sit next to them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let them know they're not alone. And I certainly couldn't work on my stuff at that time.
Exactly.
I'd need to be in a smaller group.
Yeah.
But that comes back to what I was saying about acknowledging what is right for us individually. You know, so for me, if with that many people, I wouldn't go. I wouldn't get anything from it. But that does not say I couldn't go to a gong session with lots of people.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Well, thank you, Chris. Another great Q&A that we've done. So your last thoughts before we come to the end, because time has run out as we normally do.
I think if the person in your life is worth it to you, not toxic, not a leech, not a energy vampire, all of those negative words, if they add value and they bring something to you because you've given to them and you've got something going on, there's a real true connection there. If there is any kind of misunderstanding, that you just reach out and you just do what we've explained throughout this whole podcast. And if it's not like a more intimate relationship like that, say like it's a medical intervention that you need, try and think about what your needs are so that you stay empowered and you don't go into that place of disempowerment. Find a way of speaking up on your own behalf about your own needs, whether it's written or verbal. So for me, it's just like, when you don't communicate your needs or when you don't communicate how you feel, that is when the hurt and the harm, you can internalize that and you won't grow. You will just be held back. So any way you can step forwards and do what you need to do for you, I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely. And for me, I think it's important to be reflective as well. So when it's hurting you, or when somebody's fed back that something's hurting you, be reflective of that. Be mindful. You don't have to rush back straight away. Sometimes it can take a while, but think about it, work on it, and even ask someone for support. Because, you know, being vulnerable and open and literally standing there, I always think of it as like standing in the middle of a field with no protection. But you know what? That's where the best healing comes from, because when you're being that honest, you receive honesty back. And those people that don't respect your boundaries and don't listen to you, let them go. They shouldn't be in your life.
But that's hard for a lot of people, isn't it?
Huge.
That have been abused.
It's absolutely huge. But that's part of the healing and the learning about who is it who's actually in your life and what do they bring. Because if they're being a little bit nice, oh yeah, but they're nice. Yeah, but hold on, they're that much horrible to you. It should be the other way around. So anybody else who has another question that they'd like us to go into, like we just have on our Q&A, please contact us on BreakingTheCycleToStepForward@gmail.com, and look forward to another session.
We certainly will. See you all soon. Bye for now.
Bye.